Hello, welcome to this next tutorial, or rather a quick look at some new features here. So we're going to have a look at MD12, and it's got some new bits and bobs in it which might make our lives a little easier, so we'll have a look. So the very first thing, it's not really a new feature for version 12, but when you get a new version you'll quite often see in your library these little N icons beside some of your folders. That indicates that there's some assets that aren't included in your install. So the first thing I do when I do that, or when I install a new version, is just click this little download button, and it will ask me if I want to download all the files, and I'll say yes. You don't have to do it, of course, it's not necessary. I just thought it was worth pointing out. Okay, so the first new feature we're going to have a look at in the next little section is on Retopology. So I will talk to you then. Okay, so Retopology then. I've got an avatar and a garment in here, and we're just going to do some retopology on it. I'll just have a look at some of the newer features. Now, one of the interesting features is the snap feature. So if I come to the Create Topology tool, I can create a single polygon here. Just going to create it like that, and now we can cut this and it will snap to our curve. Now, one little caveat here is it does snap, but it only snaps one line. So if you press Shift and Control and then point where you want to cut, you'll see it does that. And whoops, that's not what I want to do. And that's nice, it really conforms to this curve nicely, but it doesn't really do anything for the inner. So for this particular bit, I would just start to straighten it up as I'm going. So back to Create Topology, and then Shift and Control, and we can click, click, and click. And you'll see it pretty much soon makes a mess of it, but we just have to go to the edit tool to straighten it all out. There we go. So I'm not trying to make this sort of conform completely here. I'm just trying to get kind of even lines or even length polygons to, give me a nice polyflow. Okay, so that's the snap tool. Now, it in theory works for internal lines as well, but frankly I haven't been able to make it work, so I can't really talk to that too much. Okay, so it also works on curves and the patch topology tool. So I'm going to create a patch here, and I've got set to 5 subdivisions. And basically I'm going to start on this corner and draw down this edge here, and then I'm going to draw across and up, and it will create me a patch, and it conforms very nicely to our curve, which is good. Again, I'm going to have to come in and do a little bit of tweaking, because while it maintains the curve nicely, it doesn't really help me with the rest of the topology, and I'd like to have that quite nice, really. Now, okay, what am I thinking? Well, I don't want this line of polygons down here, so I'm going to select them one by one and just press delete and get rid of them. And the reason I don't want it there is because I want to connect this up like so. There we go. Whoops. There we go. And now I can move things around as I want to get that nice. So first of all, let's just create a polygon down in this direction. Whoops. Control Z, there we go. It's a bit too quick on the click button there, and then I can finish that off there. Okay, so that's okay. This is obviously a little large, so I will just even this up a little bit, and then maybe put some cuts in to help it. So another new feature is the cut tool, and yeah, we've looked at that already. So it's Shift and Control in create topology mode, and that will create an edge loop. The other alternative is you can click a line and keep clicking across to have it going in the direction you absolutely want it to. Excuse me. I'm going to put one down here just to help that curve, and then we'll go to edit topology, and that's snapped down there nicely. Look, there we go. Okay, so that's pretty good, and I can finish this off relatively quickly now with a patch. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 subdivisions there. So patch tech, if I set that to 8, I can't connect it directly to this island, but I can get it close. Somewhere around there. There we go. And then hit create, and now I can join these up with the create topology tool. So just clicking each of these vertices, so just click, just keep clicking, and then eventually we should get there. Whoops. Oh, missed that one. Oh, no, I've got it now. There we go. Okay, so I could spend some time evening this up, or using the cut tools to add in additional geometry, but I think I'm going to even it up in this case. There we go. Now that's not too bad. That didn't take all that long. It's pretty nice. As I said, well, I probably haven't said, I don't really use the Retopology tools very much, or at all. I find the mesh I get out of MD is sufficient for my requirements, but from what I recall, this has been an easier experience than previous iterations of the topology tool. Okay, so in the next bit, what we'll have a look at is how do I then match that up to the other side. Yes, so I shall talk to you then. Okay, so now that we've got our front piece done, we want to do the back. And for the back, I'm going to want to look at these dots, because these dots are essentially the points where I need to match. So if I say grab that one and move it up a little bit, and that one and move it up a little bit, I should see a change or a corresponding change over here. There we go. There is a little bit of a weirdness, because while I do have some points over here that are on this line, they don't appear to be showing up, and that's because they're not quite on the line. Look, so I'm just going to snap those to that line there, and that should do the job. There we go. Lovely. Okay, so let's fill in some of these. I'm not going to do the whole thing because you don't want to watch me do a lot of meticulous work, but I'm just going to basically do what we did earlier. So let's select that one and that one, to that one and that one, and close it up, and then Shift Control. I'm just going to cut it up and then generally move it around. Go Shift Control to slice. Oops, need to be on the Create tool for that. Let's pop a couple in, zoom in a bit and move them around. That one doesn't want to move, which is frustrating, but if I grab the line, that tends to, do the job. I think it's this one that needs to move. It is. There we go. Okay, so shift control, I'm going to need a couple of cuts down here, I think. There we go. Oops, press escape, and then just give them a move around to get where we want to. Right, okay. So as I said, what we want to be doing is matching these points up with polygons so that it will weld properly to the front. So I can create here and just move over. It will very fortunately snap to these points, which is very useful, and then we can move our way around until we're all done. I'm not too fussed about this bit up here. It's not matching to anything except this piece, so let's make sure that adds up. Okay, so if you've created a patch on the front, which is quite a regular, like we did here, we created this 8x8 patch down here, we can recreate that and that should just do the job. So if I use an 8x8 patch, I'm going to draw around there, and as we can see, that patch is matched up nicely with those vertices, and we can create, and off we go. Okay, so snapping, cutting, that is essentially the new stuff. In theory, as I said, or perhaps I've said, I can't remember, it should do it to internal lines too, but I can't show you it unfortunately because I can't make it work. It may be a bug, might be a fix out, but I can't make it work for now. Okay, I'm going to finish off this topology in between videos, and then we'll come back and we'll have a look at welding. So I shall talk to you then. Okay, so just a quick thing before I go on to the welds. We need a quick look at finishing off this topology. So once you have your topology as you want it, you might find that actually you want to subdivide it. So we can right click and add division on current, and it will subdivide it, and we'll do the same on the back and it will subdivide it again. It would be lovely at this point in time, perhaps even on the previous level, to have a relax. If we had a relax mesh with frozen edges, that would be great. It would just really make the whole effort of retopologizing a little bit more straightforward, or a little bit more less time consuming. Once you have them done, we can then remesh. So we've got a remesh with duplicate, or we can remesh to replace. I'm going to replace just to make it a little bit more straightforward for me, visually that is. So remesh, replace, remesh and remesh. Let's just take the arms off because I'm not really doing anything with those. Whoops, I'm in the wrong tool. Doesn't help. Let's select and delete, select and delete. Right. Okay, so if you're under any doubt whether this has worked or not, we can switch our view over to mesh, and we should see we have our quad mesh. I'd say nice quad mesh, but yeah, I mean it's okay. I've got a couple of triangles in there, but for demonstration purposes I'm happy with that. Okay, so let's go back here. Now you'll notice that if you press the sim tool now, it will fall apart because it's not welded or indeed sewn. So if you want to sim it again, we're going to need to re-sew it. So I'll use the free sewing tool for this, because each of these points is now a segment, and if I do it segment by segment, I'll be here all year. There we go. So let's sew that up. We can sew this front piece up. There we go. And this side to this side, and then we can sew the back piece up. There we go. Now the shoulder pieces. So now I've sewn it back up together again, I can resim it and see how it works, or how it looks. Might have a bit of a sewing issue down there. Let me go to edit sewing. I think I've got something just going ever so slightly over the edge. No, it's just going to be weird. No, oh no, there it is, look. It's this one here. There we go. That'll teach me to do it from a distance. Okay, so we are in theory ready to export if you're happy. So we'll have a look in the next video, and we'll look at the welding options we have. Okay, so I'll talk to you then. Okay, so to demonstrate this, I'm going to delete my sewing, because now there's no need to have it sewn to have it welded. And I'm just going to make a little anomaly just so that we can fix it. It's just going to let me, no, it's not even going to let me do it. Oh, maybe it will. Can I select one of these points? No. Okay, so I've made a bit of a mistake there in my tutorial, but not, you know, in general. So what we can do here is select all of our pattern pieces and go to File and Export, and under the export options I'll do OBJ selected. Well, let's just do it test. There we go. Come on, when you're ready. There we go. So we now have an option of Verge Mertex by proximity. So we can set that, and we can have a look as to how it will behave. So merge distance in inches, because I have my interface set to inches, is at 0.39. It's going to show, if I click it, the vertices that it will weld, and if I click unmerged, it will show the ones that don't. So you can see on the edges it's not going to weld those because there's nothing to weld them to, and at the front there we can see that, or at the sides we can see that it's going to merge some vertices as well. It's not the clearest thing I've ever seen, I'll be honest. I find it a little bit visually weird, but what I'm basically looking for is, in this row of reds, are there any blues? If there is a blue there, it means that the topology that we made doesn't match up properly, and we can adjust our merge distance to accommodate for that. Okay, and that is about it. Let's slide down a little bit here, see if we've got any other options. No, all the usual options, but yes, this will be handy. You know, if you've done a whole retopology job and you've just got a couple of vertices that are a little bit out, you can adjust your merge distance to deal with that. Now, yeah, honestly, I don't necessarily see the point, because you can still sew it up and it will weld anyway. But yeah, I'm guessing that somebody somewhere may have an instance where they don't want to sew it up, the topology doesn't quite match, and they can adjust this to do what we need to do. Okay, so in the next bit we're going to move on to a more styling and designish feature. So I will talk to you then. Okay, so the next new thing, and perhaps the most promising thing for me, is the style lines. So style lines are up here in the 3D window. Excuse me. So we can edit, scale and move. So if I go, say, to move style line and then click on the dress, we'll see we get these very thick black lines. They are the style lines. So if I select the bottom on move, for example, I can move that up, and it is now going to recreate the patterns with that adjustment. And if I press space to let that sim, there we go, we have a slightly shorter skirt. Or we could go longer, of course. So if I turn the sim off, you can only do it with the sim off. I can take that down, and eventually when it catches up and I let it resim, there we go, now we have a longer one. So basically we can move, adjust and do all sorts of things all around here. So let's have a look at scale. So oops, scale style line, so I need to click on the line. Sorry, I need to turn sim off first, I'm an idiot. So I could scale the arm holes, for example, a little bit to make those a little tighter. There we go. We can just use edit, for example, with the sim off, of course. Sim off, John. There we go. And see, I can change the curvature of this line to make a slightly different design on the front. Not a very good one, so I could move that down. So it's essentially a quicker way, I think, of editing your pattern on the fly. So rather than having to go and sort of guess at shapes over here, this will give you a good approximation. Like I see, the only thing I really don't like here is this angle, so I'm just going to flatten that up and that should do the job. Yes, there we go. So very quick, very speedy way of changing your design according to how you want it. Now these patterns are symmetrized, of course, and if I turn the symmetry off and turn the linked editing off, then I can change my design more on the fly. So for example, I could take just this side up, oh, thought I'd turn symmetry off, perhaps I didn't undo again. Let's just undo that and let's make sure I've got linked editing off. Seems to be off. It's possible that it's just doing it anyway. Let's remove that linked editing. May have been it, perhaps. Doesn't make sense, but there you go. Edit. Let's just give it a little one. There we go, that seems to have done the job. So now I can adjust this, just on one side. And maybe, that's a bit sharp. Perhaps then I'll go into the 2D tools and just pop a bit of a curve in there to make it look less sharp and unpleasant. I think that's put a lot of curve points on there. So I'm just going to go into my edit curve point. I'm going to select the curve points and delete them. There we go. And now I can have much better control of putting this curve in. There we go. So I've sort of mixed it up a bit there, bit of 2D, bit of style lines. But yes, I'm quite excited about the style lines. I think they could give me a lot of leeway for editing a pattern on the fly without too much issue. So yes, when we come back we'll have a look at another new feature. Okay, so there's a new pattern option up here under the pattern tools. So we've got polygon, rectangle and ellipse as we always have, and then we have this new version which is the spiral. So if I just left click in there, it's going to create the default, and then we have some options that we can work with. So we can change the direction from clockwise to counterclockwise. We have a radius which we can update to make it smaller or larger as required. We have length, so we can make it longer or shorter. The inner and outer lengths are of course linked. If you change the outer, the inner is going to change, etc. And we have an inner and outer side. So this is actually going to sort of taper around the down the length of our spiral. So let's just pop that back somewhere about there, and then we could reverse that, have it thicker on the outside with the outer. What else we got? We have an offset. So this is, so I'm expanding the swirl, if you like. The higher the number, the looser it's going to be, and the lower the number, the tighter it's going to be. So as to usages on this, in reality, on occasion I have actually wanted to make a spiral piece, but not for reasons of garment making. But I'm guessing that you could actually create a spiral ruffle down a dress using this to create your ruffle part. So yeah, there you go, that's the spiral. So when we come back, we're going to have a look at the new auto fitting suit option, which is very easy to use and very handy, so we'll talk about that next. Okay, so fitting suits are very handy, but we've always had to create them manually till now, but now there is an auto option. So if I go to File and Import OBJ, and I'm going to put my G9 base here, we'll notice at the top we have an auto create fitting suit option, and if I have that selected, when I click OK, it's going to create a fitting suit for me. Yeah, why not? I've been in and out of this all day. I think I've probably got a memory leak somewhere. Yeah, it's nearly there. Takes a little bit longer than normal because it has to do the fitting suit, of course. So the fitting suit essentially is a suit which allows you to convert from one figure to another. If you have a fitting suit, you can do that conversion. If you don't, you can't. So having it doing it automatically is obviously as good as it gets. You need a pattern that's been made using arrangement points, because it has to know where each of the pattern pieces has been. But if I right click and add this to workspace, yes, okay, you'll see that this doesn't fit, and now we have a fitting suit on this. I can come up to this auto or this fitting suit option up here and go retarget draping, and it will retarget that garment, which is made using arrangement points and body volumes, and it will retarget to the arrangement points and body volumes on this figure. So yes, very handy, and now comes for free, so yeah, why not use it? You don't have to learn how to create a fitting suit anymore. Okay, so I think that's probably as many of the new features as I'm going to look at. The other ones I really have no knowledge of. Chiefly the improvements to the animation side of things. That's not my my talents don't lie in that direction, so I won't bore you with that. Other than that, that's a few new features. There are some ones that I will use quite often, I think, and there were ones that I will not probably use because I didn't use them in the first place, like the topology. Okay, so if you have any questions, comments, let me know, and I will talk to you in another video set.